Insulin costs $30 to make and $300 to buy. That's the monthly bill for 7 million Americans in 2024. 3 companies pocketed the difference, and they don't make the drug or run the pharmacy. You paid the spread on your premium and your copay. Let's walk the dominoes. So the first thing to understand is how a $30 drug ends up costing $300 at the pharmacy counter. The answer sits in the Federal Trade Commission's interim report on pharmacy benefit managers, published in July 2024. The report ran for nearly 200 pages, and one finding sat at the center of all of it. 3 companies, CVS Caremark, Express Scripts, and OptumRx, collectively processed roughly 8 of every 10 prescriptions filled in the United States last year. Most people who pay for insulin every month have never heard the term pharmacy benefit manager. Most people who hear it think it's an insurance company. It isn't an insurance company at all. It's actually the middleman in the transaction. And the middleman is where the money lives. The mechanism has a name. It's called the rebate spread, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Here's how it actually works. A drug manufacturer like Eli Lilly or Novo Nordisk makes a vial of insulin. The cost to produce that vial is around $6. The manufacturer sets a public list price for the same vial of about $275. That's the price your pharmacy looks up when you fill the prescription. But the manufacturer never actually collects $275. The manufacturer collects a net price, after rebates, of about $30. The rebate is the difference, and the rebate doesn't go to you. The rebate goes to the pharmacy benefit manager. The number is $245. That's the dollars per vial that disappear into the rebate spread before the drug ever leaves the manufacturer's warehouse. $245 per vial on a drug that the same manufacturer admits in its own filings costs less than $10 to make. So why does the list price exist at all? The list price exists because that's the number every other party in the transaction uses to calibrate their cut. Your insurance plan pays the pharmacy a reimbursement based on the list price minus a contracted discount. Your copay, if there's one, is also calibrated against the list price. Your deductible, if you haven't met it, applies the full list price to your annual maximum. The list price is a fiction. The entire payment chain pretends it's real, so everyone except the patient can take a piece of the spread between the fiction and the actual cost. The pharmacy benefit manager's job, in theory, is to negotiate a lower price on behalf of the insurance plan and pass the savings to the patient. In practice, the manager negotiates the rebate, keeps a fee out of the rebate, and passes a portion to the insurance plan. Then it quietly tells the pharmacy what to charge the patient. The fee is opaque, and the portion is opaque too. The patient never sees any of it. The patient sees $300 at the counter, pays a copay, and goes home thinking that's what the drug actually costs. This is the part most pharmacy benefit manager defenders skip over. Even the rebates that do flow back to the insurance plan don't reduce the patient's copay. They reduce the insurance plan's costs, which the insurer pockets as margin or applies to premium calculations that affect every plan member at renewal. The diabetic paying $300 at the counter is subsidizing the rebate that the insurer collected from the manufacturer for the same vial they just bought. Nobody on the call when that bill arrived was looking out for them. A 2024 Senate Health Committee investigation walked through one specific case. A diabetic on a private plan was paying $190 per vial in copay. The same vial on the same plan had a contracted net price of about $32. The patient was paying 6 times the actual cost. The pharmacy benefit manager was pocketing the rebate. The insurer was applying the rebate to its books, not to the patient's bill. The transaction looked like insurance. It was actually a transfer from the patient to the middleman. The Senate hearing also surfaced the most disturbing pattern in the testimony. When a manufacturer offered a lower list price for insulin, the pharmacy benefit managers responded by moving that drug to a worse tier on the insurance formulary. The lower-priced version generated a smaller rebate, which meant a smaller fee for the manager. So the cheaper insulin got buried while the more expensive insulin stayed on Tier 1. The diabetic paying out of pocket never knew there was a $30 version sitting 2 tiers down. 3 of the 4 major manufacturers testified to Congress that they had each tried to launch lower-priced insulin and were quietly punished on the formulary. The Federal Trade Commission named this in the 2024 report. It's called the rebate trap, and it's the mirror image of the rebate spread. That's the first domino in the chain. The rebate spread is the load-bearing structure. $245 per vial, 7 million American patients, 30 days a month, 12 months a year. The math gets big fast, but you'd think, with a structure that visible, somebody would compete it away. Somebody would build a competing pharmacy benefit manager that charged less and passed more to the patient. The reason that hasn't happened is because the 3 pharmacy benefit managers running the spread aren't actually competing with each other. They're not even separate companies in the way most people imagine. They wear three hats and the head underneath all three is the same. In 2018, CVS Health bought Aetna. CVS Health already owned CVS Caremark, the largest pharmacy benefit manager in the country. After the merger, one corporation owned the retail pharmacy, the pharmacy benefit manager, and a major health insurance company. The same company was selling the prescription, processing the claim, negotiating the rebate, and writing the insurance policy. The same year, Cigna bought Express Scripts, the second largest pharmacy benefit manager. UnitedHealth Group already owned OptumRx, the third largest. By the end of 2018, all three of the major pharmacy benefit managers were owned by major health insurance companies. And all three of those parent insurers also had pharmacy subsidiaries. The industry term for what happened next is vertical integration. The plain English term is the three hats. Here's why all of that matters. Picture a pharmacy benefit manager at the table with a drug manufacturer, negotiating the rebate on insulin. The patient assumes the manager is fighting for a lower price on behalf of the insurance plan. In reality, when CVS Caremark negotiates that rebate, the insurance plan on the other side of the table might be Aetna, which is the same company. The pharmacy benefit manager keeps a piece of the rebate as its fee. The insurer keeps a piece of the rebate as its margin. The pharmacy fills the prescription at the inflated list price and books the spread as revenue. The drug manufacturer pays the rebate, raises the list price next year to absorb it, and prints a bigger top line. Every counterparty in the negotiation reports a win on its own income statement, and the patient pays for all of them. And it gets sharper from there. In a competitive market, the pharmacy benefit manager and the insurance plan have opposing interests. The pharmacy benefit manager wants high list prices because its fee is a percentage of the rebate, and bigger rebates flow from higher list prices. The insurance plan wants low list prices because high list prices push patients to skip doses, which doesn't reduce the insurer's exposure on the rest of the patient's care. Once they're the same parent company, those interests merge. The bigger the spread, the bigger the consolidated profit. So the consolidated company prefers a higher list price even when the patient on the receiving end is suffering. And the math on the income statement agrees with the strategy. The number that proves it sits in a 2023 academic study by the University of Southern California. Researchers looked at the gross profit margin on the three biggest pharmacy benefit managers' specialty drug business between 2017 and 2022. The combined gross profit was about $7.6 billion over those 6 years. 87% of that profit came from drugs where the same parent corporation also owned the dispensing pharmacy. The pharmacies weren't chosen by the patient. The pharmacy benefit manager steered the prescription to the in-network pharmacy, which happened to be the same company. The pharmacy charged the patient the list price, paid the manufacturer the net price, and pocketed the spread. The Federal Trade Commission described it in the 2024 report as steering and self-dealing. Most patients still have no idea it's happening. The vertical integration explains why nobody is competing. The three hats are the moat. A new entrant that wanted to start a fourth pharmacy benefit manager would need a national pharmacy chain to dispense the drugs. They'd also need a national insurance plan to put the new manager on the formulary. And they'd need rebate contracts with manufacturers that depend on volume the new entrant doesn't have. Building one of those is hard. Building all three at once is what you'd have to do to be competitive. And every time anyone has tried, the existing three have undercut them on rebates until the new entrant ran out of money. The structure is locked in place. The patient pays for the lock. And the 2018 mergers that locked it shouldn't have cleared antitrust review. 2 of the 3 Federal Trade Commission commissioners voted against the Cigna and Express Scripts deal. The Department of Justice approved the CVS and Aetna deal with conditions that were never enforced. The judge who reviewed the CVS deal under the Tunney Act wrote a 37-page opinion warning that the merger would, quote, harm competition and raise prices for consumers. The government appealed his ruling, won on procedural grounds, and the merger closed. Nobody has revisited it since. The same Department of Justice that's now suing Live Nation for monopoly conduct on concert tickets approved this drug payment monopoly 6 years ago. They called it competition policy at the time. So the rebate spread feeds the middleman. The vertical integration makes sure the spread can't be competed away, and the patient pays the inflated list price at the counter. That's where most people would expect the story to end. But it doesn't end at the counter. Because the patient who can't afford the inflated list price has options the rest of the chain doesn't have to think about. The patient can skip the dose. And when a diabetic skips an insulin dose, the next domino isn't on the income statement of CVS Caremark. It's in a hospital, and it's much bigger than the rebate. A 2018 Yale study looked at insulin users across the country. The finding was that about 1 in 4 people who need insulin had rationed doses in the prior year because they couldn't afford the full prescription. The study was replicated in 2022, and the number didn't budge. 25% of 7 million people is roughly 1.75 million Americans skipping a drug they need to stay alive. Rationing insulin doesn't kill you immediately, but it raises blood sugar over time, which damages every system in the body. Eventually, in the worst cases, the patient ends up in an emergency room with diabetic ketoacidosis. It's a life-threatening condition that costs the broader healthcare system about $32,000 per hospital admission. The bill gets paid by the patient's insurance, by Medicaid, or by the hospital writing it off and passing the cost to every other patient through higher charges. The diabetes care that 1 vial of insulin would have prevented costs 100 times more after the patient skipped it. Congress eventually noticed the pattern. In 2022, the Inflation Reduction Act capped the price of insulin at $35 per month for anyone on Medicare. That sounds like the problem got fixed. It didn't, because only about 18% of insulin users are on Medicare. The other 82% are on private insurance, Medicaid, or no insurance at all, and the cap doesn't reach them. The pharmacy benefit managers and the parent insurers kept the same structure for everyone outside Medicare. The private market is still paying the inflated list price. The rebate spread is still flowing. The 3 hats are still on the same head. So who pocketed the money in the end? The Federal Trade Commission's 2024 report estimated the retained profit at roughly $9 billion. That's pharmacy benefit manager-related profit on insulin alone, for the 3 largest managers and their parent insurers over the 6 years studied. That's just one drug class. Across all drugs, the same 3 companies and their parents reported combined revenue of over $500 billion in 2023. Most of that revenue is passed through, the rebates and drug payments flowing across the books. But a meaningful slice is the spread the patient paid. And the patient never saw the line item. There's no agency racing to fix this. The Pharmacy Benefit Manager Lobbying Group, the Pharmaceutical Care Management Association, spent about $13 million on federal lobbying in 2023 alone. The 3 parent insurers combined spent another $50 million. The legislative proposals in Congress to force pharmacy benefit managers to pass rebates to patients have been stuck in committee for years. The Federal Trade Commission's enforcement authority on this issue is limited. The Department of Justice has the antitrust power but hasn't filed a case, and the patient at the counter is still paying the spread on a drug that costs $10 to make. The name worth remembering in all of this is Alex Smith. He turned 26 in 2017 and aged off his mother's health insurance plan the same week. Alec was a type 1 diabetic. His new monthly insulin bill on the cheapest plan he could find was about $1,300. He rationed the doses he could afford. 3 days after he aged off the plan, his roommate found him dead from diabetic ketoacidosis. His mother now testifies in front of state legislatures and Congress about pharmacy benefit manager reform. She's been doing it for almost 8 years. The structure she's testifying about hasn't changed. The same 3 companies still run the same spread on the same drug her son couldn't afford. The lobbying budget has gone up. The patient at the counter hasn't gotten $1 of relief outside Medicare. 3 hats, 1 head, $300 per vial, $245 in middleman spread, 1.75 million people rationing the drug. The math on this is clean, almost insultingly clean. And insulin is the small one. The same machine moves between $3 and $4 trillion across the entire United States healthcare market every year. Most of it sits one step removed from a patient who couldn't afford the bill. That's where it actually starts breaking.